The world of online dating had always intrigued me. A digital realm where connections were forged through a swipe and a chat. Little did I know that my foray into the world of Tinder would lead me down a path of terror and despair, immersing me in a chilling true horror story that shattered my sense of safety and trust. It was a typical Friday evening when I found myself browsing through Tinder, swiping left and right in search of a potential match. The faces blurred together, and the conversations were often mundane, but one profile caught my attention. A young woman named Emma. Her photos exuded a captivating allure, and her bio was a mix of wit and charm. I swiped right, and to my surprise, we matched almost instantly. The conversation flowed effortlessly, our messages becoming longer and more personal with each exchange. It felt as if I had stumbled upon a kindred spirit, someone who shared my interests and sense of humor. As the days turned into weeks, my conversations with Emma deepened. We shared our life stories, our hopes, and our fears. Our interactions had an intimacy that transcended the digital realm, and I found myself looking forward to our conversations with a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt in a long time. Emma mentioned that she lived in a nearby town, and the idea of meeting face-to-face became more appealing with each passing day. We agreed to meet at a local coffee shop, and the excitement of our impending encounter filled my thoughts. The day of our meeting arrived, and I found myself checking my reflection in the mirror multiple times. I wanted to make a good impression on Emma, to match the connection we had fostered through our messages. As I walked into the coffee shop, my heart raced with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I spotted her immediately, sitting at a corner table, her smile radiant and welcoming. Her appearance matched her photos, and the chemistry between us was instant. We spoke about our shared interests, our past experiences, and our dreams for the future. It felt like we had known each other for a lifetime. As the hours passed, I realized that the sun had set and darkness had enveloped the city. We decided to continue our conversation elsewhere, and Emma suggested taking a walk in a nearby park. The moonlight cast a soft glow over the surroundings, and the sound of our footsteps echoed in the silence. As we strolled through the park, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. Emma's presence was comforting, and the connection we had forged through our messages seemed to only deepen in person. But then, as we reached a particularly secluded part of the park, a chill crept up my spine. I glanced around, my senses on high alert. The park that had felt safe and inviting during the day now seemed eerie and unsettling in the darkness. The shadows danced with a life of their own, and the air grew heavy with an unexplainable tension. Emma's demeanor had changed as well. Her smile seemed to falter, and her gaze was fixed on something in the distance. I followed her gaze, but I could see nothing out of the ordinary. My unease grew, and I suggested that we head back to the main path. But before we could move, a voice that seemed to come from all directions, echoed in the night air. "Emma." The voice was a mere whisper, but it sent a jolt of fear through me. I turned to Emma, my heart racing, but she appeared unfazed. Her expression was distant, her gaze locked on a point behind me. "Emma." The voice came again, more insistent this time. It seemed to carry a sense of urgency, a plea for attention. My pulse quickened, and I felt a growing sense of dread as I realized that the voice seemed to be coming from Emma herself. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice trembling. Emma's gaze remained fixed, and she nodded slowly. "Yes, I hear it too." I felt a knot form in my stomach, a mixture of fear and confusion. The voice seemed to grow louder, its tone shifting from a whisper to a desperate plea. It was as if someone or something was trying to reach out to us from the shadows. "Emma, help me." The words were a chilling echo of distress, and I could feel a cold sweat forming on my forehead. I turned around, searching for the source of the voice, but the park was empty, shrouded in darkness. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice quivering. But there was no response, only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. Emma's gaze remained fixed, her expression distant and detached. It was as if she was in a trance, drawn to whatever entity was trying to communicate with us. "Emma, we need to go," I said urgently, reaching out to touch her arm. And then with a sudden jerky movement, Emma turned to me, her eyes devoid of recognition. Her voice, when she spoke, was no longer her own. It was a hollow, raspy tone that sent a shiver down my spine. "Stay with me. Forever." The words hung in the air, a sinister promise that filled me with terror. I stumbled back, my heart pounding as the realization set in. Something was terribly wrong, and Emma was no longer herself. With a surge of adrenaline, I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing in the night. The park seemed to stretch on forever, the darkness a maze of shadows and uncertainty. I could hear the voice behind me, a haunting chant that seemed to chase me through the darkness. Stay with me, forever. I burst out of the park and into the illuminated streets, gasping for breath. The voice had faded, replaced by the sounds of the city and the reassuring presence of people. I looked around, my mind reeling from the encounter, and realized that Emma was nowhere to be seen. I tried reaching out to her through messages and calls, but there was no response. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a trail of confusion and fear. I shared my experience with friends and family, but they dismissed it as a figment of my imagination, an elaborate story born from the depths of online dating. But I knew the truth. I knew that something had happened in that park, something beyond explanation. The voice, the trance-like state, Emma's disappearance, they were all too real to be dismissed as a mere hallucination. As the days turned into weeks, I became consumed by a sense of guilt and regret. I had let my guard down, allowed myself to be drawn into a connection that had turned into a nightmare. I scoured the internet for any information that could shed light on what had happened, but there were no answers, no accounts of similar experiences. And then, one day, as I was scrolling through Tinder, I came across a profile that sent a shiver down my spine. It was Emma's profile. The same photos, the same bio. It was as if she had never disappeared, as if our encounter in the park had never happened. I swiped left, my heart racing, and closed the app. The memory of that night still haunted me, a reminder that the digital world can be a realm of darkness and danger. The true horror story of my Tinder encounter with Emma was etched into my memory, a cautionary tale that serves as a chilling reminder. Not everything in the world of online connections is as it seems, and sometimes the consequences of a single swipe can lead to a nightmare that transcends the boundaries of reality.